You are listening to MoJo Futures Podcast, a weekly podcast by Mobile Journalism Africa. At MoJo Futures, we discuss the best practices, the future of mobile journalism, and share experiences of mobile journalists across the world.
Good afternoon. My name is Emmanuel Yegon from Mobile Journalism Africa, and this is the MoJo Futures Podcast. Today, we've decided to do this live, and we are joined by Yusuf Omar. We are joined by Yusuf Omar all the way from Australia, and Yusuf is the co-founder of hashtag Our Stories. So I'll let Yusuf introduce himself, then we can get down to business.
Hey,
Yusuf.
Yegon, thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm co-founder of hashtag Our Stories. We're a video publisher. We reached over 1 billion views in 2019. We create stories about people changing the world, and we use augmented reality technology to help communities tell their own stories. And that's exactly part of the MoJo revolution, mobile journalism. I was previously at CNN, the Hindustan Times, News Channel Africa in South Africa. So I've got a long background in telling stories with phones and all kinds of cameras.
Yusuf, I lost you for a moment there. Kindly unmute your microphone, your mic. Unmute your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, cool. All right,
you have to put it up again.
Yeah, so my name's Yusuf Omar. I am a journalist at hashtag Our Stories. I'm the co-founder as well. We're a video publisher. We create stories about people changing the world. We reached over 1 billion views in 2019. We use augmented reality technology to help people tell their own stories. And all of our stories are constructive, solutions-based stories. And we spent lots of time in Kenya, where you are now.
Okay, Yusuf, at what point in your career did you decide to start doing MoJo? I know you've been a journalist with some of the leading organizations, media organizations in the world, but at what point did you start to do MoJo?
Yeah, I started to do MoJo as early as 2010. I wanted to tell stories across the African continent, and I started hitchhiking from Durban to Damascus, from South Africa to Syria, telling stories with phones, with little cameras, becoming the one-man or one-woman band storyteller. Then went to Congo in 2012, Syria in 2014. So I've been a MoJo for about 10 years now.
Okay, and I don't know if at first you started doing journalism with the traditional way, and what would you say is the different thing with MoJo, with your 10 years experience, Yusuf?
I think the main thing about mobile journalism is access to amazing stories. Because so many people have phones, it means that they can tell stories themselves. You can get access to hard to reach voices and communities. I think when we look at traditional media, they failed to report on Brexit in a way that we were able to best or accurately predict how that was going to turn out, or even the Trump elections, because we're often listening to experts and commentators and not people on the ground. So I think mobile phones give us access to those stories and those voices, and in that respect, that's why it's more accurate.
Okay, and what would you say are some of the stories that you've done, Yusuf, that have been impactful? And I don't want you to start mentioning stories that you've done during this period, because I think that's a conversation that we'll have a little later. But what are some of the stories that, according to you, have had the most impact, and there are stories that have been done fully on MoJo?
I think one of the stories that have been really interesting that we've done in the last, I know you said not in this period, but one of the things that we did in the last 3 months that were particularly exciting is we identified that Birmingham in the UK was a place where there's a lot of hate crimes taking place, where there's a lot of sort of aggression between marginalized communities, between the gay community, the Muslim community, people of color. We were able to provide them with augmented reality camera effects to help them tell their own stories. And we ended up doing a piece about LGBTQ plus Muslim communities. And it garnered a lot of response. We lost a lot of followers on Instagram, but I think we certainly touched on some sensitive subjects. We've certainly got a very marginalized community to start talking, and I think that was one of our more interesting pieces recently.
Okay, and then now linked to the stories that you've been doing during this period of COVID-19, how has it been for you at hashtag Our Stories, and just trying to connect journalists from across the world to tell stories and collaborate with them? How has the
Yeah,
experience been?
it's been an amazing experience. I think that we've found that where mobile journalism has been kind of a choice previously, where you've seen that the newsrooms have had to go in for mobile phones because they had a choice. With COVID-19, they didn't have a choice. We saw that. Sorry, I've got a kid in my way. We saw that we saw that with COVID-19, traditional media couldn't go anywhere. They were stuck at home or in their offices, and they had to rely on people with mobile phones. For us, we were able to create stories with doctors and nurses around the world, frontline workers, with people that were delivering food. We even did a project where we sent out Snapchat spectacles to communities around the world to tell stories through their eyes. We sent a pair to you guys in Kenya to tell stories of making masks out of bras. So I think it's become, COVID really mainstreamed the idea of a decentralized newsroom.
Yes, for sure. And guys who are watching this, if you're joining now, we are having a conversation with Yusuf Omar of hashtag Our Stories. Yusuf, someone called Ronald saying, great conversation. Met Yusuf Omar last year during the Business and
Yes,
Truth
I know
Forum.
Ronald very well.
Kempinski, immense potential lies in MoJo when it comes to storytelling. He's saying you guys are doing a great job. So, Yusuf, for people who have no idea what MoJo is and basically the essentials, really, what would you tell them in terms of just starting out to tell stories?
I think the idea of mobile journalism is, so mobile is any mobile camera, right? Whether it's a wearable camera, whether it's a DSLR, whether it's a drone, a phone. And I think journalism has the context of factual accuracy, accountability, fairness, neutral, balanced. So I think it's those two things together. I think it's people with devices working on their own or in a small group, and journalism in that it's factually accurate information.
Okay. And then again, Yusuf, there's now this concept like moving forward as a mobile journalist. Right now, you call yourself a wearable journalist. Probably just introduce that concept for people who do not know. As we might have been some of the few people to start, experiencing and making use of the spectacles to tell stories on this side of the world. But really, what is wearable journalism, and how do these two intersect with now, MoJo?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time wearing camera glasses on my face, a pair of Snapchat spectacles, and wearable journalism is the idea of telling stories through somebody's eyes, through their vantage point. I think the notion that you walk a day in somebody's eyes to understand their world, so we are able to put camera glasses on people's faces and immerse you in their environment.
Okay, and also, so like linked to that, and the fact that you at hashtag Our Stories are able to now, tell stories of people's worlds, the perspective from the people themselves and from across the continent. The fact that you've been able to, give that to people from different parts of the continent, and the stories that you are able to now get from, these different contributors from across the world. How is that for you, and what would you say? How would you say is its importance in storytelling, really?
It's so important. I mean, the democratization of voice and the opportunity for anyone anywhere to share their story has never been more relevant, nor has it been more accessible, right? The woman on the streets of Kenya today has a louder voice than she's ever had before, even though there's a long way to go. So I think it's critical in a thriving democracy to have representation, to have people be able to share their success stories and their grievances. And I think mobile journalism enables that in a big way. Whoops.
Sorry for that. Okay, so Yusuf, there's this tendency to not take MoJos seriously as journalists. I don't know if you've experienced that during your 10-year career. When you have this story and you appear there with your smartphone you're asking people questions, they do not consider you a serious journalist, if I may put it that way. What have you experienced that, and what would you speak to that? What would you say regarding that, as a fact that even people who use smartphones, they are still
Yeah,
journalists. They not be.
yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, I've interviewed presidents of the United Nations in New York and head of the African Union, all of that using a mobile phone. And I think, yeah, people sometimes do undermine it or arrive at an interview and be like, where's the big broadcast camera? I think at the end of the day, your storytelling and your reach determines your influence and how people represent you. I think let your stories drive the respect that people have for your organization, not the camera that you use.
Okay, fine. Yusuf, there's something that is changing. I don't know, you probably have noticed it, and it has been more evident, especially during this COVID-19 period, that the media landscape is changing. We're seeing a lot of organizations, sending their journalists home, the people moving digital. What would you say is, from where you sit, Yusuf, is the future of independent journalism, people doing journalism on their own, and they should not be attached to you do not have to be attached to any mainstream media organization? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some respects, the opportunity to have independent journalism is great, right? You've got platforms like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and all of these platforms allow you to publish, but you're still determined by algorithms that you have no control over, right? And now we're seeing that the majority of distribution or real distribution is coming on deals with like Netflix or Amazon or Hulu. So I think the gatekeeper has moved. And I think that while the independent creator and influencer definitely can reach billions of people, being able to get those distribution deals are also really, really important to really scale up. And I think you need to be on small screens, but you also need to be on big screens.
Okay,
Last question.
we
Give me one more question.
yes, we are having one comment here that most countries want you to be attached to some media house. How is freelance journalism work anyway? Do you need certifications? Yusuf, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think journalists are professionals, right? So, like, a doctor is a professional. They need a degree, otherwise they can't be a doctor. A lawyer is a professional. They need the degree in the board exams, or they can't be a lawyer. Journalist, really, anyone can do it. There's no specific qualification. You don't have to have gone to college. I think it's all about those ethics, those principles, holding yourself to the highest standards in terms of accuracy. Because if you lose people's trust, if you get it wrong significantly, you're out of the game, basically. People don't take it seriously. They don't regard you. So I think holding yourself to the highest standards editorially in terms of factual accuracy is the most important thing, not qualifications or degrees.
Okay, Yusuf, do you want to talk about what you guys do at hashtag our stories? I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I saw that you were hiring, and people are able to work from whatever part of the
Yeah,
world that they're
absolutely.
in. Talk about that.
Yeah, we've got.
Sorry.
No, no worries. We've got. Whoops, there we go. We've got 17 people working at hashtag Our Stories now. We're still growing aggressively. We're looking for augmented reality lens creators. We're looking for video editors. We're looking for really good producers on the African continent who can create stories about the continent and help curate. We've got we're looking for motion graphics designers. So if you are any of those things, if you're really interested in the future of news, definitely get in touch. Yagon, thanks so much for the opportunity to be on your show.
Oh yes. Finally, Yusuf, there are those either MoJos who are already, doing this, telling stories using their smartphones, and there are many in the continent that you at hashtag Our Stories and others at Mobile Journalism Africa are trying to reach so that we get more people to tell stories. Yeah. What is the one message that you, as Yusuf, with your wealth of experience in this craft, what is it that you would tell them?
The main message I'd give to the young people that are trying to get into mobile journalism is, what are you waiting for? If you've got a mobile phone with a camera in your pocket, just do it. You don't need to be given an assignment. You don't need to be commissioned by somebody. If you want to be a foreign correspondent, be it. Go there, tell those stories. If you want to be an entertainment journalist, go rock up to the entertainment events. I think a lot of people are waiting for somebody to give them this special job on golden ticket on a plate, on a silver platter, but you've got, like the same way that you did, Yagon. You didn't wait for somebody to build mobile journalism first African organization, you build your own. And I think people have got to take their destiny into their own hands and start really, if they want to be a mobile journalist, start creating content.
All right. Thank you so much for accepting to do this, Yusuf, on a short notice. I know you're even at an event right now.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, cool.
Thanks for the time.
We'll get in touch.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Guys, yes, that was Yusuf Omar. He's spared time to speak with us at this particular moment, although he's at a conference in Australia. So thank you guys for joining in. We'll see you again next week with another guest from Pakistan. Be sure to tune in as well so that you get to learn a thing or two about mobile journalism and how you as well can be part of the movement. At Mobile Journalism Africa, we believe that our stories are best told by us, and we are out here to create and build a network of mobile journalists from across the continent so that we can tell our stories ourselves. So this is the MoJo Futures podcast. We will see you again next Thursday. Goodbye.
You are listening to MoJo Futures Podcast, a weekly podcast by Mobile Journalism Africa. At MoJo Futures, we discuss the best practices, the future of mobile journalism, and share experiences of mobile journalists across the world.